What if I told you that there is a story where the fate of an entire city was decided in a single night, without its people having to raise a sword? A story that not only defies logic, but also proves that invisible forces can reverse the most desperate situations. And most impressively, this story offers practical lessons that you can apply to your life today, to face seemingly invincible challenges with courage and faith. Intriguing, isn't it? Now imagine an army of 185,000 Assyrian soldiers besieging Jerusalem, ready to devastate everything. Hezekiah, the king of the city, had no means to win. His resources were limited, his army small. All seemed lost until something supernatural happened. The impossible became real, and what was an inevitable defeat turned into an inexplicable victory. Want to know how this happened? Most importantly, want to find out how you can use the principles of this story to transform your own reality? In this video, you will learn how faith can be a powerful force, greater than any challenge you face. You will understand how Hezekiah's strategies combined practical action and total trust in God, a formula that changed the fate of Jerusalem and that may change yours as well. And in the end, you'll walk away with something more valuable than just a story, a spiritual map to overcome your own armies of problems. In the grandiose scenario of antiquity, the Assyrian Empire emerged as a true military power whose reputation for invincibility permeated the lands it conquered. Just imagine their armies marching with impeccable discipline, employing advanced tactics that perplexed their adversities. Assyria was not only known for its brute strength, but also for its strategic skill, managing to subdue fortified cities that many believed to be impregnable. This hegemony was reflected in the stories told from generation to generation, where the glow of the shields in the moonlight symbolized not only the confidence of the warriors, but also the fear they inspired in the hearts of their enemies. The city of Jerusalem, with its rich history and spiritual significance, was not immune to the reach of the Assyrian Empire. Under Sennacherib's reign, Assyria extended its claws to the confines of Judah, surrounding Jerusalem in a show of power few dared to face. Hezekiah, the king of Judah, was faced with a monumental challenge where faith and leadership would be tested to the extreme. At this crucial moment, the walled city became a symbol of resistance, where hope and distrust walked side by side, reflecting the complex dynamic between conquerors and defenders. Sennacherib, a ruthless leader, did not hesitate to employ every available trick to subdue Jerusalem. His military campaigns were characterized by a brutality that left deep scars on the conquered lands. However, Assyria's true strength lay not only in its fearsome army, but also in its ability to psychologically influence and intimidate its adversaries. The strategies employed went beyond simple physical conquest, seeking to undermine the morale and confidence of the inhabitants, creating an environment where resistance seemed almost impossible. Hezekiah, on the other hand, emerged as a resilient leader, guiding his people through times of uncertainty with a combination of wisdom and unwavering faith. His ability to maintain the cohesion of the population in the face of imminent threat was a testament to his inspiring leadership. The construction of the Siloam Tunnel, for example, was not just a military maneuver, but a practical demonstration of how human ingenuity can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. This feat not only ensured water supplies during the siege, but also served as a symbol of hope and perseverance for the inhabitants of Jerusalem. The presence of the prophet Isaiah added a deep layer of spirituality and divine guidance to this narrative of confrontation and resistance. Isaiah not only conveyed messages of encouragement, but also reinforced the idea that there was a superior intervention at play. His prophecies offered a glimpse that the arrogance of the Assyrian Empire did not go unnoticed, and that there were greater forces at work behind the scenes of history. This connection between the earthly and the divine created an atmosphere where faith and strategy went hand in hand, strengthening the resolve of Hezekiah and his people. Faith played a central role in this historical moment, serving as a foundation for resistance against oppression. Hezekiah's fervent prayers were not just cries for help, but a deep expression of trust in a higher power that could change the course of events. This collective faith united the community, providing an internal strength that complemented Jerusalem's physical defenses. It's fascinating how spirituality can intertwine with military strategy, creating a powerful combination that challenges even the most formidable of invading forces. The Assyrian army, despite its impressive size and advanced tactics, faced internal challenges that eventually contributed to its downfall. Arrogance, often described in historical and prophetic narratives, became their own weaknesses. Overconfidence in their military capabilities has blinded their leaders to the subtleties of psychological warfare and human resilience. This self-pride created an environment where error became inevitable, opening breaches that allowed divine intervention to manifest itself in a decisive way. Finally, divine intervention, as described in the scriptures, was not just a spiritual whim, but a direct response to the faith and prayer of a people who refused to yield. The miraculous defeat of the Assyrians, though recounted simply, carries a profound symbolic weight on divine justice and sovereignty. This event not only saved Jerusalem, but also served as an everlasting reminder that even in the face of the greatest adversity, faith and divine intervention can alter the fate of entire nations. And so, the story unfolds, setting the stage for the next chapters of this saga of faith, prophecy, and intervention. In the 14th year of Hezekiah's reign, Jerusalem faced one of the greatest threats in its history. About 185,000 soldiers from the army of Sennacherib, king of Assyria, surrounded the city, imposing a blockade that seemed insurmountable. The tension was palpable, and the inhabitants lived under constant fear and uncertainty. As recorded at 2 Kings 18:13, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, went up against all the fortified cities of Judah and took all the cities except Jerusalem, which he besieged. The magnitude of the siege demonstrated not only Assyrian military might, but also the determination to subdue Jerusalem. The Assyrians used psychological strategies to demoralize the defenders of Jerusalem. They made provocative statements, comparing the God of Israel to the idols of the conquered nations. In 2 Kings 18:28-29, it is written, "Why do you not go out and fight on the battlefield with my armies? You can see how I destroy my armies. My God, whom you worship, help me kill them." These words were intended to undermine the faith and confidence of the people of Judah, creating an atmosphere of despair. Despite the looming threat, Hezekiah stood out as a resilient and inspiring leader. His response to the crisis was multifaceted, combining practical actions with a deep faith in God. He implemented strategic measures, such as the construction of the Siloam Tunnel, to ensure water supplies during the siege, 2 Kings 20:20. This feat not only strengthened Jerusalem's physical defenses, but also symbolized the king's ingenuity and determination to protect his people. Hezekiah's faith was a fundamental pillar during this time of crisis. He encouraged his citizens to maintain their trust in God, even in the face of adversity. In 2 Kings 19:15, Hezekiah fervently prayed, "Lord, the God of Israel, you are one God. You have ruled over all the kingdoms of the earth. You made them and you destroyed them. You alone say what should happen." His prayer reflected a deep divine dependence, demonstrating that true strength came from unwavering faith in the Lord. Divine intervention was a crucial element in the defense of Jerusalem. As prophesied by Isaiah, "No man can save himself. It is the Lord who saves." Isaiah 37-32. Hezekiah's reliance on the prophet's word brought new hope to the townspeople. Isaiah's presence not only strengthened the collective faith, but also reinforced the belief that God was directly involved in the protection of Jerusalem. The psychological impact of Isaiah's prophecies on the Assyrians was significant. The prophet's words undermined Sennacherib's confidence, which was already tired of the continual battles and destructions. Isaiah assured Hezekiah that until the Lord, the God of Israel, intervenes, you will not enter this city, nor can you take away your glory from it. Isaiah 37:32. This divine promise not only boosted the morale of the defenders, but also planted the seed of doubt in the Assyrian ranks. As the siege dragged on, Hezekiah's combination of military strategies and divine intervention began to show its effects. The Assyrian army, despite its size and strength, began to face unexpected challenges. The faith and prayer of the population of Jerusalem created unwavering resistance, making it difficult for the Assyrians to maintain their constant pressure. This scenario exemplifies how faith can be a powerful tool in times of crisis, complementing human actions with a spiritual force that transcends understanding. The culmination of this period of tension occurred when, on a decisive night, divine intervention resulted in the miraculous defeat of the Assyrians. As 2 Kings 19:35 relates, "Out of the Lord came the angel who destroyed the army of Sennacherib. He wounded 185,000 men in the camp." This victory not only saved Jerusalem from destruction, but also served as a testament to God's faithfulness to his promises. The walled city remained intact, and the faith of Hezekiah and his people was rewarded in an extraordinary way. At the heart of the siege of Jerusalem, Hezekiah stood out not only as a military leader, but as a true pillar of faith and spirituality for his people. In times of extreme adversity, as described in 2 Kings 19:14, he spread Sennacherib's letter of challenge before the Lord in the temple, demonstrating his deep trust in divine intervention. Imagine the scene: a city surrounded, hope dimmed by the high walls. But Hezekiah kneels in prayer, reminding everyone that true strength lies in faith. This attitude inspired the inhabitants to remain calm and confident, even when all seemed lost. Hezekiah's leadership went beyond practical measures of defense. He restarted religious practices that had been neglected, recognizing that spirituality was critical to community resilience. In 2 Chronicles 29:3-4, we read about how he reopened the temple doors and organized the purification of the Levites, restoring the Passover celebrations. This spiritual renewal not only strengthened the unity of the people, but also reaffirmed their faith in a God who protected and guided. It is as if, in the midst of chaos, Hezekiah had lit a flame of hope that illuminated the way for everyone. Hezekiah's prayer, recorded in 2 Kings 19:15-19, is a powerful example of how direct communication with God can transform seemingly insurmountable situations. He not only asked for deliverance, but also that everyone would recognize the Lord's sovereignty. This prayer reflects a deep humility and total dependence on God, essential characteristics for any leader who seeks not only victory, but true justice. Imagine yourself in a similar leadership position. How would you utilize faith to inspire and guide those around you? In addition to prayers, Hezekiah took concrete steps to strengthen the defense of Jerusalem. The construction of the Siloam Tunnel is a testament to his ability to combine faith with strategic action. This tunnel ensured the water supply during the siege, preventing shortages and keeping morale high among the inhabitants. It is a clear example of how faith can drive innovation and practical problem-solving. In our lives, when we face challenges, we can draw inspiration from Hezekiah to find solutions that bridge the spiritual and the operational. The renewal of religious practices under Hezekiah also had a lasting impact on Jerusalem's identity. By re-establishing Easter celebrations and purifying the temple, he reaffirmed the people's commitment to their values and beliefs. This reaffirmation not only strengthened social cohesion, but also served as a constant reminder of God's presence and power. Think about how, in times of crisis, reaffirming our values and beliefs can provide us with a sense of purpose and direction. Hezekiah's faith also served as a spiritual shield against the demoralization promoted by the Assyrians. The words of encouragement and trust in God inspired the people to resist with determination, even when the odds were stacked against them. In 2 Chronicles 30:26, we see Hezekiah calling for unity and spiritual renewal, demonstrating that true strength comes from a community united in faith. It reminds us of the importance of maintaining our faith and mutual support during difficult times, creating a support network that helps us overcome obstacles. Hezekiah's faith and prayer-centered leadership also highlighted the importance of integrity and humility. He did not seek personal glory, but the glory of God, putting the welfare of his people above his own ambitions. This selfless approach is a powerful example for leaders from all walks of life, showing that true leadership is servant and guided by high principles. How can we incorporate this humility and integrity into our own lives to inspire and lead more effectively? Finally, Hezekiah's story teaches us that faith and prayer are not just spiritual practices, but powerful tools for transformation and endurance. The combination of visionary leadership, strategic action, and an unwavering faith has created an unstoppable force that has overcome the most fearsome threats. As Hezekiah's narrative unfolds, we are invited to reflect on how we can apply these principles to our own journeys, strengthening our faith and actions to meet the challenges that come our way. In the maelstrom of tensions surrounding Jerusalem, the prophet Isaiah emerged as a pivotal figure, bringing messages of hope and divine intervention. Isaiah was not just an ordinary messenger. He possessed a deep connection with God, allowing him to convey promises that would transcend human comprehension. When Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, threatened to destroy Jerusalem, Isaiah was the channel through which God secured the protection of the city. His words resounded not only in Hezekiah's ears, but also in the hearts of all the inhabitants, infusing them with renewed faith. Isaiah stressed God's sovereignty over all nations, including the fearsome Assyria. He declared that no man can save himself, it is the Lord who saves, Isaiah 37:32, a claim that directly challenged the arrogance of the Assyrian army. This prophecy not only strengthened the confidence of Hezekiah and his people, but it also undermined the morale of the invaders. The promise that God would supernaturally intervene to defend Jerusalem served as a powerful reminder that true faith can overcome even the most formidable threats. Isaiah's intervention was essential to keep hope alive in the midst of the siege. He assured Hezekiah that the Lord, the God of Israel, would intervene and destroy the Assyrian army, Isaiah 37:35. This divine assurance transformed the outlook of Jerusalem's defenders, inspiring them to resist with renewed determination. For those facing seemingly insurmountable challenges today, Isaiah's message is an example of how prophecy can serve as a guide and comfort, showing that there are forces beyond human comprehension at work on behalf of those who have faith. Isaiah also highlighted the futility of Assyrian threats, comparing the God of Israel to the idols of conquered nations. The Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them. Isaiah 40:28, he said, underlining the superiority of divine power over any earthly force. This comparison served to destabilize the confidence of the Assyrians, showing that their God was not able to protect his own nations, while the God of Israel was fully capable of defending Jerusalem. This clear distinction helped strengthen the faith of the people of Judah, reminding them that they were protected by a supreme power. In addition to strengthening the morale of the defenders, Isaiah's prophecies had a strategic impact on the Assyrians. By stating that no man of war would save the city, Isaiah 37:38, he sowed doubt among the enemy ranks. The overconfidence of the Assyrian army began to waver, especially when faced with the promise of divine intervention. This kind of war psychology is something modern leaders can learn, using words of encouragement and confidence to influence allies and adversaries alike. Isaiah's presence in Jerusalem also symbolized the importance of spiritual leadership in times of crisis. Not only did he convey messages from God, but he also guided Hezekiah in strategic decisions, reinforcing the idea that faith and leadership must go hand in hand. This collaboration between the prophet and the king exemplifies how spiritual guidance can complement secular leadership by creating a holistic approach to facing adversity. Today's leaders can draw inspiration from this partnership, seeking a balance between strategic planning and spiritual trust. Isaiah not only prophesied about the protection of Jerusalem, but also about the future of Judah after the defeat of the Assyrians. He spoke of the restoration and prosperity that would follow, assuring that renewed faith would lead to an era of peace and rebuilding. This vision of a promising future helped keep the morale high and guide the actions of Hezekiah and his people, encouraging them to persevere with the assurance that their difficulties would be overcome. This optimistic outlook is a reminder that even in the worst of circumstances, the vision of a better future can drive resilience and determination. Finally, Isaiah's role as a prophet during the siege of Jerusalem reinforces the importance of God's word in everyday life and critical decisions. His prophecies were not merely predictions, but living messages that directly influenced the actions and faith of the people. By integrating the divine word with the practical reality of Jerusalem's defense, Isaiah demonstrated how faith and action can complement each other in powerful ways. This teaches us that in our own lives, spirituality can be a source of strength and guidance, guiding us through the most difficult challenges with the assurance that we are not alone. On that fateful night, the fate of Jerusalem was sealed by an intervention that transcended human comprehension. As told in 2 Kings 19:35, out of the Lord came the angel who destroyed Sennacherib's army. He wounded 185,000 men on the field. Imagine the scene. A city besieged, its defenses firm, but hope seemed to fade. It was then that the divine came into play. Not through human weapons or strategies, but through a supernatural power that changed the course of history. This event not only saved Jerusalem from destruction, but also highlighted God's sovereignty over human forces. The miraculous victory was not only a show of power, but also a testament to the unwavering faith of Hezekiah and the people of Judah. They trusted in their prayers and in Isaiah's promise, even when circumstances seemed insurmountable. This episode teaches us the importance of maintaining faith and trust in times of adversity. Just as Hezekiah sought divine intervention, we too can find strength in our faith during difficult times, whether in the workplace, in personal relationships, or in health challenges. The defeat of the Assyrians was so complete that it left a trail of silence and desolation in the enemy camp. In the morning, the inhabitants of Jerusalem found the battlefield littered with lifeless bodies, a sight that confirmed divine intervention. This event serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of the most fearsome forces, faith and divine protection can prevail. It's a lesson in how trusting in something bigger can turn seemingly hopeless situations into unexpected triumphs. Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, returned to Nineveh humiliated and met his end in tragic fashion, murdered by his own sons while worshipping in the temple of his god, 2 Kings 19:37. This outcome illustrates how arrogance and pride can lead to downfall, especially when we challenge divine power. For us, it is a warning about the importance of humility and the recognition of higher forces in our lives, reminding us that human power has its limits in the face of the divine. Divine intervention in the defense of Jerusalem also underscored the importance of unity and community cohesion. Hezekiah led his people wisely, strengthening not only their physical defenses, but also their collective faith. This union was crucial in facing the Assyrian threat and ensuring the city's survival. In our own communities, whether at work, in the family, or in social groups, collaboration and mutual trust are key to overcoming challenges and achieving common goals. In addition to the military and spiritual aspect, the defeat of the Assyrians also had political and social implications for the region. Jerusalem's victory destabilized Assyrian power, paving the way for shifts in the balance of power in the Middle East. Historically, this has demonstrated how supernatural events can influence the course of human events, shaping the history of entire nations. For us, this shows us that unexpected events and forces beyond our control can have profound impacts on our lives and society. The history of divine intervention also reinforces the importance of recording and remembering these events for future generations. The biblical accounts serve as an enduring testimony to God's faithfulness and how He answers the prayers of His people. Keeping this memory alive is crucial for inspiring and strengthening the faith of future generations, ensuring that they learn from the past and find the courage to face their own challenges. In our everyday lives, this can translate into sharing stories of overcoming and faith with friends and family, strengthening community bonds. Finally, the miraculous defeat of the Assyrians in Jerusalem invites us to reflect on the role of faith and prayer in our lives. Hezekiah and his people not only trusted in God, but also acted wisely and decisively. This combination of faith and action is a valuable lesson for all of us. We can apply this to our own journeys, seeking a balance between trusting in something greater and taking practical steps to achieve our goals. This harmony between spirituality and action can guide us to overcome obstacles and achieve meaningful achievements. The biblical narrative of Jerusalem's victory over the Assyrians is strengthened by historical and archaeological evidence that still echoes in the modern world. A fascinating example is the Sennacherib prism, an artifact discovered in the 19th century that recounts the conquests of the king of Assyria. Interestingly, while he details the siege of Jerusalem, the prism omits any mention of the conquest of the city. Instead, Sennacherib claims to have imprisoned Hezekiah like a bird in a cage, a description that actually reinforces the biblical account of divine protection. This historical gap is an indirect testimony to the supernatural intervention that the Bible describes in 2 Kings 19:35. Beyond the prism, the Siloam tunnel stands as tangible proof of Hezekiah's strategic preparedness. This tunnel, dug into the solid rock, supplied water to the city during the siege and can still be visited in Jerusalem. Its existence is mentioned at 2 Kings 20:20. Hezekiah made the reservoir and the tunnel by which he brought the water into the city. This accomplishment was not only a feat of engineering, but also evidence of Hezekiah's practical and visionary leadership, complementing his spiritual trust in God. The inscriptions in the Siloam tunnel provide additional details about its construction, confirming that it was excavated by two groups of workers who started at opposite ends and met in the center. The accuracy of this work reflects Judah's determination and ingenuity under Hezekiah's leadership. For those who doubt the historical authenticity of Scripture, the tunnel serves as a physical reminder that the biblical accounts are deeply rooted in reality. Historical records also mention Sennacherib's death, corroborating the Bible account of 2 Kings 19:37. Assyrian tradition documents that Sennacherib was murdered by two of his sons while worshipping in the temple of his god in Nineveh. This tragic event underlines the contrast between the Assyrian king's arrogance and the humiliation he faced after divine intervention in Jerusalem. The connection between the biblical narratives and the Assyrian records offers intriguing validation of the events described in the scriptures. Historians such as Herodotus, while not directly linked to biblical tradition, also mention events that may be related to the defeat of the Assyrians. According to Herodotus, a devastating plague would have struck Sennacherib's army, resulting in its retreat. Although Herodotus's description differs from the biblical narrative, it highlights the universal perception that something extraordinary happened during the siege of Jerusalem. This historical parallel reinforces the idea that the events described in Scripture are not just religious myths, but events with real implications. The importance of this archaeological and historical evidence goes beyond simple validation. They connect the past to the present, showing how faith and history are intertwined. For believers, Sennacherib's prism, the Siloam tunnel, and Assyrian records are more than ancient objects or texts. They are testimonies of God's faithfulness to his promises. And for skeptics, they are reminders that Scripture has a solid foundation in verifiable events. Furthermore, these archaeological finds inspire reflections on how faith has shaped and continues to shape history. Hezekiah's decisions, based on both practical actions and divine dependence, influenced not only the fate of Jerusalem, but also the course of Middle Eastern history. This example shows how the interplay between faith and action can create a lasting impact, offering valuable lessons for the modern world. Finally, the study of historical and archaeological evidence related to the siege of Jerusalem leads us to a deeper understanding of the biblical narrative. Sennacherib's prism, the tunnel of Siloam, and the Assyrian records not only validate the events described in 2 Kings and Isaiah, but they also challenge us to consider how faith can turn crises into moments of triumph. And so we move on to the next chapter of this epic story, where the connection between the divine and the human continues to shape events. Now that you know the fascinating story of the angel who defeated 185,000 soldiers in a single night, it's time to reflect. What does this mean for you today? Think about the challenges that seem invincible in your life, whether financial, emotional, or spiritual. If God was able to change the fate of Jerusalem, what can he do in your life when you put your faith in him? Hezekiah's prayer, the courage to trust in the unseen, and the divine strategy were not just for that time. These principles are still available to you now. Are you ready to apply what you've learned? What steps can you take to unite practical action with genuine faith? Is it time to strengthen your spirituality, seek more wisdom, or perhaps trust in God's plan even when all seems lost? The greatest enemy is sometimes not on the outside, but in the lack of confidence in the power of the Most High. I want to know, which armies do you need to face? What will you do differently after hearing this story? Leave your comment below and share your vision, because perhaps your experience inspires others who are also in battles. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, you will continue to discover stories that not only enrich your faith, but also transform your way of living. We are on this journey together, and the best is yet to come.